Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone to And She Thrived, which is a platform which holds space for Muslim divorced women. Today we have Sister Maajidah Mir, who will be sharing her very enlightening story with us today. Assalamu alaikum, Auntie Maajidah, how are you doing?
Wa alaikum salam, Sumaya. Alhamdulillah, I'm good.
Thank you so much for
And how are
joining
you?
us. We're so honored. I'm really excited about our conversation today. Are you currently located in Johannesburg?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So I'm just going to start off with giving a brief bio of Majida. Majida Mir is a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 9 children. Abandoned at age 6, she was unable to trust easily and turned to Allah from a very young age. At 19, she married and decided to never divorce, so not to have her children be raised without parents such as she was. She studied business management and administration and worked as a realtor, which she practiced for over 30 years. Majida went on to study the self in relation to treating her trauma wounds through crystal healing, Reiki, energy work, and counseling. She thought she was healed until she met with TRE. So TRE is trauma, it stands for trauma release exercises. And Majida started hiking 30 years ago and founded Nature Lovers, which is a group that consists of over 100 members. She hikes weekly and enjoys 5 to 6 day hikes away. And she has also been a Tai Chi student for the last 15 years. Majida currently practices as a TRE practitioner, helping others with trauma release for the last 14 years now. Thank you. It sounds so exciting. Okay. So, wow. I remember the first time I met Auntie Majida was several years ago when I was fairly newly divorced, and we happened to meet by chance on a hike. And she told me about TRE. I was very intrigued. And fast forward all these years, I'm so glad that we're able to reconnect. And I would say that my first question would be that how I know that you've had, from what you've explained in your you've had a traumatic childhood. Would you say that your divorce as well has contributed or directed you towards the work that you currently do? If you would just like to speak more about that in terms of your background, your history of your journey, and how you have evolved to a point where it's opened up this kind of work for you.
Okay, when we get married, I mean, we have amazing ideas and thoughts about why we're getting married, and we have our reasons as to why we want to take this big step, apart from the pressures of society and family and whatever. We go ahead with this with very little knowledge and understanding. Obviously, it's our first time, and in my case, I was 19, so rather immature, I would imagine. And you have these decisions, in your head that I will get married and I will never divorce and I will do everything I can to make it work because, I'm going to raise kids and they must have both their parents, etc., etc. But my marriage was an abusive marriage. So abuse already was a no-no. And through the abuse, I started to justify my other reasons why I still needed to be there, even though abuse was unacceptable for me personally. But emotionally, I couldn't put it together. Emotionally, I was so immature that I made all sorts of excuses, especially after he said how sorry he was and how much he loved me and all that kind of stuff. And you forgive. We are generally very forgiving, And as the years went by, I realized that this was such a pattern and that it happened every 2 weeks. Right? I started to become a little wiser and started to try to understand the story and, ask myself whether I was the one that was in the wrong and, all that kind of stuff. And eventually got to the conclusion after 13 years that this was not for me, you know, because there was no benefit in the marriage. I was the sole supporter of my 4 children, and it was really not worth it. But then it took me another 2 years to actually execute the decision, having then done my pros and cons and, you know, why I should and shouldn't be in the marriage. And having done that, of course, it comes from already a traumatized background. Yeah. You are traumatized when you're already going into the marriage because you have funny reasons as to why you will be married. There's more emotion involved than head. And emotion is very good, but it requires some kind of head balance with the heart, you know, and that I failed to do at an early age when I went into the marriage. And yeah, after 13 years, I decided finally that I will go it alone, having had already 4 children. And the fear of how I'm going to handle and live and support 4 children was enormous, another traumatic situation. And still at that point, I had no tools as to how I was going to release the trauma or even understand where it comes from, etc., etc. So survival was the mode that I was in for the next 9 or 10 years after the divorce. Survival, because 4 kids, how do you feed them? There's no income, there's no support, you're living away from your parents, you're on your own. And so 2 jobs a day and 4 children was one hell of a situation to find myself in. But as I said in the beginning, my entire existence is knowing Allah. And knowing Allah as being my best buddy, my best friend. I mean, I chatted every day with him about all my issues. And of course, most times you don't need to because he knows what's going on. But just to have a friend to be able to express and share your emotions and how you're feeling and what have you. And I have to say that he saw me through those years and he still sees me through up to today, because there would have been no other way for me to come out of what I was in as a sane, normal person. In many instances, I feel I could have even gone into the streets for survival. I feel I could have done a lot of crazy things in order to feed my children. And that is why I have such great empathy for those that are not able to have a normal job and have to do things which are forbidden and not acceptable. I understand. And I have to thank Allah that because I knew him, I didn't have to go that route. It was like as if he protected me because he showed me a miracle every day. If I didn't have any food to feed the kids, a miracle came to the door to buy children's old clothes, and I had money to feed them. A miracle arrived every day without fail, and I couldn't deny the existence of my creator. I couldn't. Many a time I'd get into a headspace and think, I can manage it and I can do it, but I know full well it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So every morning I have to sit down and invite him into my life and say, I'm here to listen and pay attention and be guided to whatever and wherever you take me.
Okay. Auntie Majida, I'm just putting my questions aside because I am genuinely interested in what were those concrete things. If we could really like go deeper, I would really like to understand what it is that helped unravel that trauma, because we read many people's bios, oh, they did this and this and that, and you know, these are nice things, Reiki and whatever, and going for counseling. But I really want to deconstruct what it is. If you are able to go back and to look at what are those pivotal things that created shifts in your self-perception, in your thinking, what helped release, if you could, there's some kind of trajectory that you could outline for us that other people might be able to benefit from, that would be extremely valuable.
Look, for me, the only thing, and I know it's really difficult because one needs to be in this situation at a very early age. And my communication with Allah Ta'ala started very early in my life. And that was the only concrete. That was the only solid that I had, because I had no parents. I had to live with people that didn't really like me and called me all sorts of names because I didn't have parents. And this is with my other siblings as well. So we had family members that never liked my mom. So therefore, they never liked us. And in all of that growing up, the only source of peace and love that I felt was knowing and having conversations with Allah. I was writing letters to him at the age of 10, and spiritually started to become enlightened because he was all I had. I couldn't trust the people around me. I couldn't trust anyone around me because they weren't there to nurture myself, my being. I had to do it alone. There was nobody there. There were no parents. And those that were there didn't really care. So I just found solace and comfort in this concrete situation, and that is Allah. There's just simply nothing else. I can't begin to explain how important knowing him is in my life. I just cannot explain it. But I always say he put me through the trauma so that I could love him even more. So my friendship and love with him is key. And based on that, I do all of my things. Is it okay to do Reiki? That kind of thing. Should I go and study it? But because of my lack of evolvement at the time, I wasn't evolved enough to understand. Many things come in your path. And you think, okay, I got to do that. I got to try this, because you're searching and searching for a solution. And we all go through that. And I did my journey in searching as well, in spite of having Allah with me. Many a time I defied him too, because I thought that what I knew was better. Only then later to find out it was a waste of time. So that's the one concrete, Sumaya, that I rely on and I trust.
Right. So you're saying that your relationship with Allah was more remedial for you than the other modalities that you might have delved in? Or would you like to explain more about how those other aspects, whether it's counseling or those things, helped sort of open up things for you and, make you more self-aware and help release any of that trauma, apart from your spiritual connection with Allah, which sounds to be a foundational aspect of
it. It is a foundational thing, and it is what you live by every day, and that is what I lived by every day. So you do have society, you have peers, you have people around you that speak the same language as you. And I was encouraged to do Reiki, I was encouraged to do crystal healing and things like that. I was encouraged, but at the same time, deep down in me, I knew that I had the ability to heal. I just didn't have the tools or the evolution of mind and soul to understand which direction to go. So I had to do the crystals. I love crystal work. I still work a lot with crystals. I also gift crystals a great deal to many people on their birthdays and things like that. And crystal is also a creation of Allah. So for me, it keeps me close in that way. Reiki, because of energy, which is your body, and you have your negative and your positive charges in the body and energy in the body. And I'm able to pick up intuitively a lot of things. So intuitively, a lot of these things kind of work okay, but they don't go deep enough. So I had to learn and unlearn that this isn't working, and I had to come back always to myself, always, because we are told that the answers are all within us, and we don't really need to go out there searching for anything. So for me, that inward journey is what brought about TRE. That not wanting to go all over, but just staying quiet for about 2 years, not doing anything, just going to work and coming back and, constantly communicating, asking for guidance, etc., etc. And that is how TRE came to me. And because it's a natural body-based mechanism, I just fell in love with it because it comes from Allah. So I just really, I'm doing it for 14 years and I do it for me practically every day. And I just find that it's such an amazing modality. And because it is non-cognitive, because talking all the time can be very detrimental to the soul and to the body, because we are telling the cells, I'm unhappy. So the cells work around how they should help you to be more unhappy. I'm depressed. So the cells will work around helping you to become more depressed. So the cells are living organisms, and they need, in order for you to have a healthy, happy life, they need to be taught lovely things. They need to hear beautiful things from your mind. It's such a wonderful day. I'm going to do this today. Just to be happy. And I know it's difficult when you come out of trauma or when you are in trauma. It's almost like moving a boulder, and it's just too difficult. But baby steps with everything. Like I said to you earlier, laughter, just laugh for nothing. And somehow you secrete all these lovely chemicals in the body that put you on a nice high, but a pleasant one, not a depressing one. So I've said to myself not so long ago that you're not smiling enough. When you walk into the supermarket, when you walk anywhere, just keep the smile on. So I'm training myself, rather late, but I'm training myself to actually do that. And I have to say to you, the more I'm doing it, the more calmer I am. And I'm just happy for no reason, which is allowed.
Yeah. Could you explain to our community, what is TRE? What's it about? How does it benefit the body? Just more about your work.
Okay. The guy who actually created TRE was somebody who was a theologian, and he had other modalities that he had studied, I think physio, psychology, and various other things. But theology and creation and religion and whatever took him to the war-torn areas, where in the Middle East especially. And he observed that people in those war-torn areas, in spite of their religion, in spite of their belief system, in spite of everything, all behave in a particular way when confronted with trauma. So that is when he came up with this phrase of calling us all organisms. We are just organisms. We are not Muslim, we are not female, we are not whatever, we are just organisms. So he studied that in length and came up with the TRE exercises, which puts your body into what is called a neurogenic tremor. And in the tremoring of your body, you start to release whatever's blocking, whether it's your arteries, whether it's your fascia, whether it's your muscles, wherever the trauma is sitting. It helps to release the trauma, because many times while you are tremoring, you may have a memory, and then automatically your tremor will address that memory, and so will you. And together you will help release the memory, because whatever we're taking in is stored in the body emotionally. Whatever we think, it's stored in the body.
Is that from our
And if it's
childhood?
negative, from birth, from
birth.
even in the uterus, when your parent is traumatized or isn't being treated well, the trauma can start from there. I've had to go that deep to find out more about my trauma and what my mom's behavior was during the 9 months. And it's quite fascinating, but also terrifying to get to know certain things that you knew nothing about and your mom didn't share with you. So, so TRE is a non-cognitive 7 exercise therapy, which you will do 4 to 6 times once a week. And once you've mastered how to do it, it is a tool you will use for the rest of your life.
Okay.
If you want to see the facilitator once or twice a year, you can, but it's not something that you become dependent on the person who's helped you to understand it. You don't become dependent on them. You start to become dependent on yourself and your creator, because between the two of you is where you're going to do all the releasing, no matter what thought process you're in.
So if one is feeling anxious or stressed out or grief, could she just do it by herself?
Yes, after you've actually gone through the sessions with the facilitator, just so that you start to understand how your body works.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you have difficulty, the facilitators are always available. You can always go and have a one-off session,
Yeah.
but you are taught it in 6 weeks, how to treat and how to behave with your body and to be conscious of what's going on in the body. You see, we were raised to use the brain more and not even pay attention to the body, really. So it's like go to school and study and become this and educate on that. Everything is about the headspace. And that is what's brought about this excessive or high rate of illness throughout the world, because we have disconnected with the body.
Mhm.
We've stayed in the headspace.
Do you have any stories, whether they are personal or from clients, of how they responded to the TRE?
Okay, when we did TRE 1, not level 2, level 1, it was very fascinating because it was so new and everybody was in their element and really listening and doing everything as we were asked to do. And in the one session, I remember clearly, there was a woman who was doing this the entire time. So the guy, David, he asked her during the session, what was that all about? Because normally you can figure out what's going on, but because we're in a group of about 50 people, you're not going to disturb. So you wait until the session's done and then you address each individual, and each individual will tell you what they've been through. And she says that she was shaking the bars of her cot because she didn't want to be in that cot at all. So she was releasing the trauma that she had since she was a kid. And that's what she was doing.
From
And she felt very liberated.
a cot would be a crib. Yeah.
Crib. Yes, yes. The one that comes with the square
Bars,
and the bars. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, well, anything else?
And another one also felt strangulation. She was claustrophobic. If she went into a lift, she felt as if she was being choked. And then during her sessions, she discovered that the umbilical cord was around her neck. So a lot of things will emerge for you.
You
A
say she
lot of
discovered
things.
during the session. You mean that there's
Yes, when she's in the session,
a
you're feeling
reconnection?
it, the connection. She connected it immediately to her when she was a baby in the uterus.
And she knew. Did she know what
And she
happened
knew.
in utero?
And she knew, yes, because I mean, this is all non-cognitive. You are so involved with your body, you've got no brain function. You're not analyzing anything and questioning anything. Things are just coming and they're just happening. And you have to allow that. Many people have difficulty in allowing it. So their TRE sessions tend to take longer because they might not get it right in the first session. They might not get it right in the second session until they learn to let go. It's about letting go.
Yes. Can we
We
talk
are
about
too
letting
afraid
go
to do
first?
that.
How do we let go? We hold
Is
on to
not to
negative
it
stuff.
is not to be in the mind and not to entertain any thought. My solution when I had to search for how to let go of all these things that are busy in the head was to start to zikr and to sing. I just sing in my head anything I want to sing. And it's usually with the 99 names of Allah that I will pick one and I'll start singing to him. And I add my words to it and tell him how I feel and to be happy and that kind of thing. I just stay in zikr so that I don't have any brain work happening. And when brain work happens, it's because I'm receiving a message from Allah about what I'm supposed to do, because my head is not clogged to hear what he has to say. He's talking to us all the time, by the way. He's guiding us all day long. But our minds are so busy, we do not hear a thing. We're just very busy. And we were taught that it's good to be busy.
So how long
Unfortunately.
tremor for at a time?
You tremor for 40 minutes to an hour, depending on your... Well, you have 7 exercises to do. And by the time you're done with your 7 exercises, you would have done half an hour of your TRE session. And then your actual tremoring, if you're not tremoring in the exercises, could be about 20 minutes. Some people have been known to tremor for the entire day. They loved it so much they didn't want to stop. And a lot of release, and they were feeling so good, because you do end up feeling very good because you are unlocking. So you feel energized, you feel wide awake. Other people may feel ill and nauseous, and it depends on your level of trauma and how you've been able to handle it throughout your life.
And during the tremoring process, you're not thinking of anything, or are you focusing on something?
You shouldn't be. With my clients, I make sure that they're breathing. So I do a lot of breath work with my clients. From the minute they start, don't hold your breath and breathe. Every move you make, you breathe. And that is what Tai Chi teaches me. And I've learned how to become that, breathing every step I take. No rushing, do things calmly. You'll still get to your destination, however you do it, but you do it slowly.
Okay. So if we can tie this into to the topic of divorce, what is it that you think are the main challenges that divorced women face, Muslim women face in our communities?
Well, for me, it's the reason that we get married is, number one, incorrect, usually. We have no advice. We fall in love, and that is it. Nobody can tell us anything. We're just going for it. Head first, we don't want to know. So with a late friend of mine and I wanted to start like a marriage counseling thing, like the way, what is this late actor? He did a movie. I see his face. He passed away. Lovely guy. Anyway, he did a movie where you had to come to him as a counselor to give reasons why you wish to get married. Yeah. So we wanted to do it based on the Islamic way of living. And we don't have many of those, but if people can start communicating and giving people reasons, people that they trust, as to why they want to go into a marriage first and foremost. And then when in the marriage also is to try to make it work. But when guys are abusive, become addicts, do all sorts of crazy things, there's really not much you can do. You try your best for 5-10 years sometimes, and nothing really works. So you have to be strong to be able to live your life now without this individual who you might have depended on or whatever. So all those things also to become independent, which Islam teaches you. It teaches you to be independent. It doesn't teach you that you need to be completely dependent on the man. So women need to, before marriage, kind of pull it together where they're independent and understand that I'm getting married, but there's every possibility that it won't work. But if you're living with expectations, it becomes harder and more difficult to make decisions because you're expecting so much. And then, of course, a lovely friendship, to have a lovely friendship with the person that you're getting married, as a real friend, as a buddy, but in real terms, But it works both ways. Works both ways. Like in one training called Imago training, they say, for married couples, they say that I may walk into the room with a green, red, and yellow bag, and the guy I want to marry will walk in with a green, yellow, pink, and lavender bag. But the similar bags that we have is what attracted us. The exact same colors attracted us. So this is our baggage that we come into the marriage with. We have these suitcases of things that we've gone through in our lives, and we're bringing it into the marriage, but we expect miraculous life. It's not going to happen. It's hard work to get married. It's hard work for everything on this planet. It's not easy even to be a human, especially when you want to do certain things like marriage. It's not easy. So one needs assistance in that direction.
Right. So many people that I speak to who have been divorced and want to move on, the trepidation with getting married again is that, you know, because as we become older, we realize that we have a lot of trauma, whether it's from our childhoods, whether it's from our marriages. And it's knowing that whoever you meet, they are coming with their own set of problems. And
Exactly.
that fear is that I know I have got some brokenness in me, you've got some brokenness in you. Is our brokenness compatible? And that's the scary thing, is because no one wants that all that rubbish all over again. So what I mean, how does one make it you know, a beautiful, you know, union, knowing that we have all this stuff, that these bags of things that we're carrying with us?
Okay, so the stage that I have reached in my life, where if I had to get married again, it's not going to be based on what we have been raised to believe, right? So I've maintained that if I meet someone and they have their own life and their children and their grandchildren, he must live there in his home. I will live here in my home. We will date after nikah, we will date the entire time, but I won't get involved in you and your family, and you don't get involved in me and my family. And
Mm-hmm.
if you wish to, it'll be with a lot of love and respect. Otherwise, don't try it.
Mm-hmm.
Because those third party issues are always the things that come in between a relationship. And when two people make decisions to be together, they've got to iron out all these little things. And it's a lot, because some people, oh no, I can't not see my mom every day. Oh my God, what about me? You have to be with me every day, that kind of thing. So, how evolved are you to accept that kind of person? How evolved are you where, it doesn't matter, he's going to see his mom, I can have a night free, wonderful. I'll have dinner on my own. I don't have to have dinner with him. And, all those like things that tie you down in the love web, you know. If you can, through evolvement, obviously, in becoming a bigger and better human being, you have to accept them for who they are. And are you able to do that? As long as it's good qualities and small offish things, but not major bad behavior and major bad things, But if there's small little issues, you can always just learn to accept. If you can trust the person and he's doing it genuinely, that he is going to his mom and he's not going to see somebody else and things like that. So you have to get to that point where you will be able to trust.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it comes with self-work and self-awareness. So we aren't
Yes.
about these things, right? Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of expectations. We are raised, every culture is raised with expectations for marriage. And that is the disaster for marriage, because it doesn't work. I may come from another culture, you come from another culture, and your culture says this, and my culture says that. I mean, what is the point in being married if we are going to be so interested in what our cultures are saying? And we are not like the human beings trying to make this situation of friendship and love and respect and compassion and whatever. What are we doing to make that work, irrespective? Because when you met, you knew you were of different cultures. So that shouldn't really come into the marriage. You should be able to deal with it at a distance. Oh, well, that's what they do. Okay, fine, go ahead and do it. I'm going to be doing whatever I'm doing. So, yeah, it takes a lot, Sumaya. A lot of understanding and a lot of love and compassion. I think if we have love, immeasurable love, we can handle anything. Anything. But we also have to get rid of lots of our own baggage of expectations and what love means. And love is the 99 names of Allah. That is what love is: the compassion, the respect, the understanding, the helping, the all sorts of things. You have to become those words. And then you also have to stop yourself when you get out of hand. The moment you want to lose your head and start screaming, you have to hold back and say, now, why do I want to do that? Oh, because he sounds like the way my dad did when he hit me when I was a child. Oh, shit, now you're going to react to him now because of what your childhood trauma has put you through. So it's a very delicate balance, very delicate balance. So for me, when I do TRE, I'm doing a lot of counseling as well while I'm doing the sessions, because I'm hearing what the individual is saying and how they are raised and things that they believe in, and I'm bringing them back to the Quran, basically. That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing all my TRE clients back to Quran and back to Allah, and not to be in the customs and traditions and all those other books that they follow, but just to follow the one book.
And your clientele are from the Muslim faith or any faith?
Those that are and those that are not, because I know all the different religions, I go into the different religions with them, because that's the basis of their life. And their behavior stems from all the do's and don'ts of what they were raised with. Some correct, some incorrect. So clarification on that, or I ask them to explore and tell me, what does their religion teach them about this or about that?
Okay.
But ultimately, having read all the different religious books, it's all about love and care and compassion. All of them say the same thing. They all say the same thing. So you got to love yourself, care for yourself, have compassion for yourself, but you got to lose all the other traits.
I'd like to
Like being
talk more about self-love, but we're going to continue this in just 1 second. So, Auntie Majida, we hear a lot about this elusive thing called self-love. Are you able to share something about that? And how does one attain that?
Yeah, I'm just looking here for a post that I read the other day, and it just really rings true for this. It says, once you realize the power of your words, you won't just say anything. Once you realize the power of your thoughts, you won't just think anything. Once you realize the power of your presence, you won't just be anywhere. And that is self-love.
And how would you say one
So
attains that maqam, that station?
it's your consciousness. You have to become very, very conscious. You have to learn to be grounded, that you are on the planet and not living in your head with the perceptions and with the stories and with the thoughts and whatever. Your feet, you've got to feel your feet on the ground, and you have to breathe. And when you do that, you won't be in your head.
So it comes down to ultimately being extremely present.
Very present. So if you are very present, you are not going to bring harm to yourself. You are not going to think of toxic thoughts. You're going to think of pleasant thoughts. You are not going to open your mouth and start swearing and shouting. You're going to be more gentler. You're going to tell yourself that that is wrong and I have to do it in a better way. So that is all part of self-love, because you're evolving into that ball of energy, which is pure love, which is where we come from. Allah Ta'ala is just all love. I mean, if you look around and see what he has given us, not what man has done, but what Allah Ta'ala has given us, it's all love. So if we want to get back to there, we have to start respecting the body in which we are. And I know it is difficult if you're a head person. I know how difficult it is. I've had people who live in the head that couldn't even tremor, because it's like, oh, what's happening to my body? What's going on? What's happening? Because they are only in the head.
Yes, I was also recently reading about self-hypnosis, and they find that people who are very much in their head and very analytical, very critical, they actually are the ones when they do like a sample study, they're the ones who actually can't fall into that hypnotic state.
Hypnotic state,
right?
yes.
Because they're analyzing and they're challenging everything all the time, and you have to almost be one of those like submissive. Just let it, you know.
It's not so much being submissive as much as it is
submissive
when
to
I
the
say,
suggestion, to the hypnotic suggestion. That's what I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
not even really. It's the arrogance, it's the ego. That is what keeps you going in that direction. Because if you say, I am a Muslim, it means one who submits his will to the will of Allah. So if we don't do that very first statement, we're not going to go anywhere. We're just going to live by our own thoughts, our own emotions, and our own ego. We're just going to keep happening in that direction. But to submit is the key, to submit. I have a very dear friend that I've known for about 30 years, and she was telling me how life is so difficult. She believes in Allah. She does her salah. She has her kids and her husband. It's always but. And when I spoke to her last week, she was fully aware that she does not submit to Allah. She does not submit to His will. When she has an intuitive piece of guidance to tell her what to do, she neglects it and goes and does what her head told her to do, only to find out that it was wrong and she should have listened.
So she's not listening to an intuitive self or her higher.
That comes from Allah. Your intuitive self comes from Allah. So if you are not going to pay attention to that and submit, you will analyze everything forever and you'll go nowhere because you're so busy analyzing and criticizing. So it's a job. Like I said, being a human is not easy. It's a job. So you have to remind yourself.
Any advice on how to cultivate a practice of mindfulness?
Well, I mean, I'm at it for nearly 40 years, so it's really very difficult to just give you one kind of thing. But like I said to you earlier, try not to have thought processes going on and try to be in the moment and try to stay in zikr so that you are not thinking about anything. And a lot of people have big stories going on, and I often say to them to tell that monkey in the brain, not today. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, but not today. And if every day you can suspend the conversation to tomorrow, then you don't need to have that conversation because it brings you nothing but misery. Truly.
It's
because
not
it's not real. It's not real. It's what if? What if? What if? What if? And then maybe I should have done it, should have. It doesn't benefit you in any way, but what would benefit you is to be in the moment and to do it correctly. Every move you make, you do it correctly, and then there should be no ifs and buts. So it comes back to you being present, spending a lot of time with your bare feet on the ground, on grass or on the ocean, at the ocean or wherever, but just feeling grounded because there's a lot of energy that comes out of the earth that assists us. That is why we are here on the planet, is to be assisted. And Allah Ta'ala has given us a lot of things to assist us. We just have to pay attention. You know, the trees are there to assist us with oxygen while we are breathing out the carbon dioxide, things like that. The ocean is there, the sand is there, the grass is there, everything is there for a reason. If we can connect on a daily basis with all these insignificant, as people call them, things, it becomes very significant in our lives because it helps to keep us grounded and it helps to keep us present and consciously aware of what we are doing. I also have conversations with myself and I'll say, why do you want to go into the room now? And unless I don't remember, I don't go. So if I'm sitting and I have a thought, and in that thought, I had a thought I should go to the room, but I didn't have clarity. And then automatically your body wants to get up to go to the room. But I've now decided I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask the question, what do I need to go there for? And there's no need. Because when you are in busy mode, you just busily do a whole lot of stuff. You know, you can't sit still. You just have to be busy. So if you can ask yourself, well, now, why do I need to do that? And if you're rational enough, you'll find that there was really no need to even move.
And I think many people, they don't want to stop being busy because it's scary, you know, to just sit with oneself and to sit with
Remember things, deal with
things
things.
that are really
Yes,
going on, you know, without.
yes, yes. Oh, absolutely. People are on the move and on the run. They just cannot be still because they don't want to face what's inside. They're too afraid. And I don't know why, because that is what would set you free. Because you're carrying this baggage, but you don't want to know what the baggage is. It would be so much nicer to open the suitcase and unpack the baggage and then give the suitcase away and say, oh, wow, you know, I'm traveling light
But
today.
then that brings me to my next question, that for a person who has experienced trauma, how does she know that she's been that she's reached a state where she's healed? How does one know that she's been healed? Because sometimes people think, okay, things are happening, it's going in a positive direction. Something happens and you feel, oh my goodness, I'm back to square one. So yeah, how does one know?
I hear you on that. So for me, I believe that I was healed because I learned so much and I evolved and I was practicing so many different things and my mind was clear. And yet I made a whole bunch of wrong decisions and I did a whole lot of things that was not acceptable for me if I look at it in hindsight. It's only after I met TRE that I realized that whatever I thought I had healed, like my childhood trauma, I hadn't healed because it was still in the body. So I was working
And how did you know it was still in the body?
because when I was tremoring, I went into those places that I thought I had already dealt with. The abuse, the abandonment, I had already dealt with it in my head. So I was getting along in life and I was doing fine. So I believed that I had healed. So in 2014, when I went for Hajj, when we had to go from Makkah to Azizia, there were millions of people all around me. And of course, our busload of people going. And I stood there and started crying. And my friend is asking me now, why are you crying? I said, I don't know. I just feel totally alone. And when I look around, there's thousands of people all around that I'm feeling alone. And I asked myself, what's going on? By then, I had already been into TRE for 4 years. And then it dawned on me, your abandonment you haven't let go of at a cellular level. So the body was reacting with the tears, feeling the loneliness, even though the head had already worked it all out. And then it took me 3 months from that point to recover because my body started to go into a failure with a fever, diarrhea, all that happening while we are going to be performing Hajj. All that started happening. And the only solution to that, or the only answer to that, was my abandonment for me. And when I came home, I stayed in bed for nearly a month and a half and then I recovered. So it basically took me about 3 months. And then I was fine. And then I never shed a tear. If I ever said to you, my mother abandoned me, I said it with a joyful face because I had healed. It didn't bring back the tears where I felt so sad, you know, that this had happened to me. I was more open to talk about it. I didn't feel bad anymore. So with all my traumatic situations that I've released with the body through TRE, I can talk about it freely without crying and without having an emotion attached to it. There's no, it's been dealt with. It's over, it's done with, and I've become wiser.
So you can talk about it without an emotional charge. That would be the indicating factor.
Yes, yes, which they will tend to say is something has triggered her and things like that.
And
Yeah.
isn't it still okay to feel sad sometimes, like if one has moved on from their, you know, marriage? I'm hesitant to use the word failed because, you know, that's a loaded term, but from the marriage it didn't work out. to look back and to feel a sense of nostalgia, or, you know, is it?
You're allowed to have those feelings as long as they don't override your current situation, as long as they don't become foremost focus for you for the next week or two.
Oh, I see, like hang over you like a
A
weight.
moment, it can be a moment. You feel it and you love it and you let it go. Everything bad you have to love. Just send love towards it, that lovingly you let it go. Lovingly it didn't work because you had given it all the love you could,
And
or
can you
that
share
you knew how to.
that experience to that individual, to your ex?
Yes,
What of that?
yes. I do a lot of Ho'oponopono, which you know, I think I've sent it to you too. So I do that a lot on those that have hurt me as well.
Could you just
Send
briefly
a lot of
tell our
love to
audience
them.
what that's about? That's a forgiveness prayer, right?
Yes. Well, it comes from Hawaii, and it's done in a way where it incorporates or includes all mankind. So if Sumaya is aching, and like the Nabi said, if Sumaya's arm or leg is sore, the entire Ummah's arm or leg is sore. But this prayer goes for humanity, that if Sumaya is depressed and sad, then we are all responsible for causing her to be depressed and sad. Took me a while to figure that out, but eventually I did, and it makes a lot of sense. So I don't know if me here in South Africa might have had a car crash and I have upset the energy levels in Philadelphia that caused you, for no reason, to start to go into a severe depression. I wouldn't know that. So therefore, I'm responsible for anything that happens on this planet. And so are you, and so are we all for each other. So the Hawaiian prayer goes like this, where you start with, I love you, which is, say, if I'm saying it to you, I love you. And I go into some explanation in my heart and soul about why I love you and that kind of thing. And the second part is, I'm sorry. So whatever bad I did to you, or however I hurt you, that I'm really sorry, knowing or unknowing. And then please forgive me. And I thank you. So I invite Allah in my prayer and say, this is what I'm doing for so and so. Please help me so that they can feel better and they can feel the prayer so that they change all that anger and whatever they are feeling towards the other person.
Can one not say that prayer to oneself?
Yes, I do it a lot. When I did it to myself, I cried a hell of a lot because I wasn't kind to myself for many, many, many years because I didn't even think that I needed to be kind to myself. So yes, definitely. I did it for myself a hell of a lot. And every now and then when I feel something that's not okay, I do it for me. And then I try to figure out what it is. And then, energetically, I may get an answer and then I address it and work on it and do TRE.
Okay. Do you have any general advice for our audience, our community, on anything?
Trust in Allah. Just let go. Let go. Don't hold on to anything. Just let it go and say, Ya Allah, I'm sitting here. I have no money. I have no food, but I know you're going to bring it for me. And I swear to you, He does. Whether your neighbor visits you and brings you a plate of food, or whether somebody knocks on the door and asks you if you have something to sell, however it comes, but you have to, He wants you to remember Him. And that's the best way to remember Him every single day. Talk to Him about everything, all your problems. He loves it because you belong to Him. And then He'll open the doors for you because He knows you are paying attention and you're coming to Him, not just in your quick 5 salah, but the entire day and at night. So for me, us as Muslims, and even those that are non-Muslims that are listening, it's just connect with yourself. Because God is close to you, closer than your jugular vein. He is right here. So just remember Him and bring Him into your little orbit. Don't ignore Him and get on with your day and do all your things. And then when you stress, come back and remember Him. No, remember Him throughout the day. Remember Him for everything. The food you eat, the gratitude, endless gratitude to Him. And when you make marriage decisions or when you're going through a divorce also, just turn to him. He will unveil and unlock things like you can't believe.
Absolutely.
I needed to see my Tyler, who's ignored me for a whole month. And I keep saying, Ya Allah, I don't know what's wrong with this guy, but please help me to meet him or see him. He's not taking the calls, whatever, whatever. And this morning, as I'm driving down to go and do one of my errands, there's the Tyler walking down the road. And I said, Salam, Rafiq, you see, Allah sent you to me. This is what I'm saying. In everything, so you don't have the stress. Otherwise, I would have made 50 phone calls to him and annoyed his family to death, just because I wanted a job done. But 2 calls, 3 calls, and okay, it's not happening. Sit quietly, wait for some action. And that's exactly what I do. And it works. For me, it works beautifully.
The surrender and slowing down.
Yes, surrender, slow down, breathe, ground yourselves, and find a TRE facilitator in any country that you are. America has many, Africa has many. The eastern parts of the world also have many, Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, all over. There's TRE facilitators. It's growing and growing and growing because people love the natural way and not the allopathic way. So this is so natural to heal yourself from major things. You might still want the doctor and the hospital, but at least you are doing it in comfort, and understanding your body.
Right. Thank you so much, Auntie Maajedah. It's been an absolute pleasure and so enlightening. Thank you. Really appreciate
Thank you.
We hope to have you again.
Hope I didn't talk too much.
No, not at all. Not at all. And
it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
It's lovely to chat with you. And I also go back to all the lovely pictures for our Cape Town hike.
Oh, I know. It's gorgeous. And hope we'll reconnect soon, hopefully, if you're amenable.
Okay, inshallah. Okay, sweetheart. Salam.